Joining us now, Mike Davis, former law clerk to Justice Neil Gorsuch, along with Jeffrey Clark, former acting assistant attorney general. Mike Davis, do you think the overzealousness we see from Jack Smith is anyway linked to the trouble the Bidens are in?
So let's see. Wednesday, Biden gets caught with this sweetheart deal with the Biden Justice Department where they're trying to cover up tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and other corruption to Joe Biden, and Hunter was the bag man. And Thursday, Jack Smith, green-lighted by Merrick Garland, brings a superseding indictment to go after Trump's maintenance worker. No coincidence at all, right?
So, Jeff Clark, you're a former senior DOJ official. Bring us inside the room and tell us what the culture is like at the DOJ and how political it's gotten.
Well, I think we see the evidence of politicization, from the headlines and from all of the stories. And look, you've touched on this issue, and Mike just, went after it in terms of the suspicious timing vis-a-vis the pardon plea that you were discussing. But look, there are two other key timing aspects here, right? One is it looks like this is an attempt to sandbag the judge, right? They had to have known this was coming, yet they pushed to get a May trial date, right? Why didn't they tell the judge about that? You would think the judge would want to know that, have all the cards on the table before setting a trial date. And so that leads me to another timing point, which is how can this trial possibly stay on track for May at this point, given this new development, right? Mr. De Oliveira is going to need to get a lawyer. That person's going to need to be read into the Classified Information Procedures Act. That lawyer's going to have to get up to speed. I mean, it just seems to me like, I'm not even sure at this point that they're doing anything more than engaging in lawfare to besmirch President Trump and affect the campaign directly, as opposed to actually trying to try a criminal case.
Mike, the IRS whistleblowers have accused the Biden administration now of pardon by plea. It all blew up this week, but they're totally going to try to put this plea deal back together, won't they?
Well, there's no question that the Biden Justice Department is going to try to go back and have another bite at the apple here. The problem is they were being dishonest with the judge and with the American people because they tried to include a broad plea waiver of all potential crimes. So Hunter is a pardon of all crimes, and that this judge, who was actually a compromise pick and picked by both Democrat home state senators, a Democrat judge, asked a few probing questions and this thing blew up. They're going to come back, and the silver lining for this, when they finally get to this plea, is they can't say that there's an ongoing investigation and then Congress can start issuing subpoenas and put Hunter Biden in a chair.
You know what, Jeff Clark, that's actually the first thing that Jim Jordan said to me when this all blew up. He turned to me and said, you know what, Matt, now they're going to try to use this to say ongoing investigation to try to block the oversight work that we are doing that I think is actually prodding along the Justice Department and others. Do you think that these things interact with one another in the minds of some of these senior DOJ officials?
So, Matt, I take that as a question for me. I think that, yeah, it does. It's clear that they're reading the news clippings. There's a famous statement about the Supreme Court follows election returns. This is kind of similar to that. I think they're carefully watching the news. It's just too coincidental. There's a disaster on the Hunter Biden plea front in the District of Delaware, and then the next day, boom, there's this superseding indictment. I think they were holding it as a kind of defensive measure to help protect the Biden family, and that's just not the way the Justice Department should proceed.
Mike Davis and Jeff Clark, two legal eagles, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your insights and analysis.